we worked out at the Chester YMCA at 6 o'clock in the morning. So it was really a challenge. And yes, we had to be innovators in order to get through those years until we moved to the new campus.
I was hired in 1979 to come to the Penn State Delco campus, a member of the health phys ed faculty, and was the men's soccer coach and men's head basketball coach. At that time, there was no gymnasium on campus. We really had to be people who could think of original ways to do things, whether it be teaching class or teaching athletics.
I arrived at the campus in 1981 as a faculty member. So for 7 years, I had to teach without any indoor facility, and you had to be very creative. The big change came in 1988 when we opened the facility. So it really made a difference having the building. It changed the whole atmosphere of the campus.
Athletes at this level compete because they love the game. They compete because they are unwilling to give up a sport that they love, but realize that academics are more important. Our athletes will be going pro at something else besides their sport, but while they are here, being able to participate gives them a variety of skills they wouldn't get anywhere else but on the playing field.
As you can see, Brandywine Athletics has grown quite a bit during the last 50 years. Tonight marks another moment of our growth as we honor our first class of Hall of Famers. These 6 remarkable individuals have given so much to our athletic department, our campus, and the university as a whole during their time spent at Penn State Delco or Penn State Brandywine. My name is Bobby Caprice, and I'm the Director of Athletics here at Penn State Brandywine. I want to thank everyone for being here to help us celebrate and honor Dan Doran, Dana Johnson, Altabelli, Tiz Martin Griffith, Michael Medicchini, Julie Munch, and Bill Wiley. It is exciting to not only have our guest of honor here tonight, but so many former student athletes, coaches, and staff to support them during their big night. For those of you who haven't been on campus in quite a while, I'm sure you like the changes that you've seen. In 2008, we underwent we got some good photos up here. We went through a name change in 2008 from Delaware County to Brandywine. 10 years later, we are a residential campus, now with over 250 students living in Orchard Hall. And we broke ground on construction on this beautiful, brand new student union building. Along with the campus, Brandywine has continued to advance, growing into the largest and most successful athletic department in the Penn State University Athletic Conference. In the last 10 years, we've won 23 championships, and we've had hundreds of student athletes earn awards for their academic and athletic prowess. Most notably, Brandywine won its first ever national championship when our men's soccer team claimed the USCAA title in 2018. Tonight, we are here to honor 6 former athletic directors, coaches, and student athletes who played a big part in getting Penn State Brandywine Athletics to where we are today. Their hard work, dedication, and countless hours of selfless commitment to our campus have paved the way for future generations of Brandywine athletes. Tonight, you will hear from champions and record holders who are the best of the best amongst our 50-year history of Penn State Brandywine Athletics. At this time, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Marilyn Wells, our campus's 5th chancellor. Today, she's on her 12th day on the job. She too would like to welcome each of you to campus for this special night.
Thank you, Bobby. I too would like to extend a welcome to all of you, especially to our Hall of Fame inaugural class of inductees, our student athlete alumni, guests, family, friends, and we even have some faculty, staff, and students here. So it's really my pleasure to honor you on my 12th day on campus. I actually arrived in media about 14 days ago, right about this time. So It's been a wonderful whirlwind. I would like to thank you all for being here, and once again to congratulate our inductees. While Bobby did an excellent job recanting the last 50 years in just a few seconds, I thought I'd share a few stories about myself and athletics and so forth. When I first stepped foot onto this campus last October, I was struck by how stunningly beautiful the campus is, the brand new facilities, the grounds, the buildings. Yes, we have things that we're working on, athletic fields and making our classrooms more technologically innovative, and we hope that you'll be a part of that as we move forward. But it really is a stunningly beautiful campus. I was also struck by the warmth of the faculty, the staff, the students. I've been on many campuses, and I've never been to the campus where over 40 student leaders, many of whom were athletes, showed up to meet someone interviewing for a position. So it was really about the people and the dedication and the beautiful facilities that drew me here. Their drive, their passion, their competitiveness. And I anticipate that whenever you first set foot on Penn State Delco or Penn State Brandywine, it was that same feeling. You just can't replace that feeling, and that's what makes our campus so very special and makes us a winning campus in so many ways. I'll also share a few words with you about my story. While I like to think that I'm young at heart, I was actually born at a time in our nation's history before Title IX. It came along when I was growing up, but when I started my schooling years and so forth, there were no girls' sports. And so I didn't have the opportunities that many of our, particularly young women athletes have today, as well as the men, because Title IX opened up opportunities for men as well. My mom and dad were first-generation Americans. I was a second-generation American, and it was their life breath. They really believed in the value of higher education, that their son, my older brother, and I go to college to get an education. And like many middle-class, new American families at that time, they had us in Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and taking music lessons and going to summer science camps, studying hard, doing everything that we could to enhance our chances at college and to do well. While we were very involved in our physical fitness with swimming lessons and hiking through scouts and community programs, my mom and dad kind of really believed that athletics was a deterrent to our academic goals. And so throughout my life, one, I didn't really have that choice, but throughout our lives, that was kind of the mentality I was brought up with. However, my mom and dad have long passed, and I hope that I honor them each and every day. But over the years, I've learned through my own son and through my daughter the value that athletics can bring to the academics, as well as through the many students on many campuses with whom I've worked. Athletics makes students better students, and because of students, they're better athletes. And so I hope that each of you who participated in Penn State Delco or Penn State Brandywine athletics, or your family members who are here with you, know without a doubt that you are better because of your athletic experience at what we now know as Penn State Brandywine. I absolutely know that we are a better university because of you, and it's because of you and the generations of athletes to come that we will continue to achieve new levels of prosperity into the future. So without further ado, let's get on with the celebrations tonight. This is a fantastic night tonight, and we want to celebrate our honorees so very much. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Well, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we are going to start calling up tables to make your way to the buffet. So our lovely staff here will direct you there, and then we'll begin the program shortly after dinner. Hello, everyone. We are going to start our program. Everyone's been anxiously waiting for this moment. First, I want to thank our Housing and Food Services for always providing us an excellent meal. Thank you to Neil and Elizabeth and their staff. I am so excited to officially start our program tonight. We've been discussing starting the Hall of Fame for quite some time. A lot of planning went into this night, and I want to quickly thank some people who made this night possible. First, our University Relations Department, Bill Tyson and Mike McDade. Our Development and Alumni Relations staff, Marlene Livingston and Sarah Daly. Our staff in the Athletic Department, Maisha Matos and Monica Wouters. And the entire Hall of Fame committee, which Vince will announce later. However, two people in particular really made this night happen and deserve special recognition. First is our Assistant Athletic Director, Jeff Scarpone. Jeff has been digging through the library over the last 2 years, compiling photos that you all enjoyed seeing tonight and certain information so that we can make tonight possible. Without him researching every inch of Brandywine athletics, this night would not be possible. He's been reading through old newspaper clippings that we've had, old score books, and even meeting with alumni and former coaches to compile the information necessary. Without his dedication to this project, this night would not be possible. So I want to thank Jeff Scarpone for all of his work. Finally, I want to thank Vince Scrunchy, the chair of our Hall of Fame committee. Vince has worked part-time in our athletic department for the last 25 years. Yes. Since his time as a student. I don't want to give up his age, but he's been around quite some time. He's seen so much of Brandywine athletics growth over the years and has been instrumental in starting our Hall of Fame. Vince, I thank you for your continued dedication to Brandywine athletics and specifically all the work you made into making this night possible. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Vince Scrunchy to begin our program.
25 years. Can I get on the pension program? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Chancellor, Member of Student Affairs, University Relations, University Development, former coaches and athletes, and Hall of Fame inductees. It is my honor to present to you this evening the first ever Hall of Fame class at Penn State Brandywine. Before we begin, I would like to introduce to you the dedicated members of the Hall of Fame Committee who worked vigorously to select the first ever class and put together this evening's festivities. Unable to be with us this evening, but representing our current student athletes, men's soccer player Ben Sarafinas. Ben's insight as a current student was invaluable to our selection process. Representing the faculty is Barb Rossick. Barb, where are we at? A longtime faculty member and professor of kinesiology, Barb dedicated much of her adult life to Penn State Brandywine athletics. Although recently retired, Barb enthusiastically continues to administer her knowledge to the Hall of Fame Committee. Tiz Griffith, representing previous administration as former Penn State Delaware County Athletic Director and one of this evening's inductees, Tiz Griffith. There are not enough words to describe you, Tiz, and your value to Penn State Brandywine athletics. We will try to attempt to do that a little bit later this evening. Representing the current staff is Assistant Athletic Director Jeff Scarpone. Jeff, he's the walking encyclopedia of Brandywine and Penn State Delaware County knowledge. Most of the photos and data provided here this evening were due to Jeff's research. Not only does Jeff keep our internal statistics, I truly believe Jeff knows the statistics for every campus in the Penn State University Athletic Conference. Representing our men's sport is head baseball coach Vinny Gallo. Vinny is a former student athlete and the voice of Penn State Brandywine basketball. His passion for Penn State athletics is second to none, as Vinny is always thinking of different ways to promote the Penn State Brandywine brand to potential student athletes. Representing our women's sports is head women's basketball coach Larry Johnson. Coach Johnson is the current longest tenured coach at Penn State Brandywine. A future Hall of Famer, Coach Johnson holds the record for most wins at Penn State Brandywine and seems to be recognized annually as a Coach of the Year finalist. If everyone could take a moment with me to congratulate Coach Johnson on his 250th career victory, which he had. Coach Johnson's active involvement in the Media Youth Center and Penn State Brandywine Athletics make him the perfect voice for this committee. One final recognition before we get started with the induction ceremony is to our athletic director, Bobby Caprice. It's with Bobby's vision and leadership that we are here this evening to induct our first class. From the Hall of Fame wall, if you had the opportunity to see that today, the campus tours, cocktail hour, dinner, this event would not happen without you. Thank you, Bobby. Now let's begin the induction ceremony. Unfortunately, our first inductee is unable to be here with us this evening due to a previously scheduled vacation in Ireland. Dan Duran joined the campus faculty in 1970 as a kinesiology professor and spent the next 40 years as a member of the athletic department. Dan was the campus's director of athletics from 1974 to 1988, head coach of the women's basketball, volleyball, men's soccer, swimming, and tennis teams. Throughout his tenure, Dan won 3 conference championships, and upon his retirement in 2010, was named to the Robert J. Scanlon Roll of Honor by the Penn State University Athletic Conference, an award bestowed by individuals who have served the university's athletic program with distinction. We will hear from Dan shortly via video feed he recorded earlier. But first, to give Dan Duran's Hall of Fame induction speech, please welcome retired distinguished faculty and Hall of Fame member committee, Barb Rostick.
Hello, everyone, and I want to second Vince's thank you to Bobby. I mean, she gives out accolades to everybody else, but don't forget her as well. So I'm here to give you a little bit of info about Dan Doran, which you've heard some of it, but it's my honor and privilege to introduce him as a member of the first group in the Brandywine Athletics Hall of Fame. It won't be easy to share some of Dan's contribution to this campus in just a few minutes, but I'm going to try to do so without minimizing what he has meant to this campus. Dan taught, coached, and led athletics at Brandywine, or Delco, as it was known then, for 40 years, as we've heard. He was hired in 1970, and men's basketball was the only sport at the time, so he was tasked to add more sports. So he did that. In his first year, he started women's basketball, and he coached that, and as he says, for only that 1 year, and then he hired Karen Monaco to take over at that point. The nearby YMCA was where they practiced, but all the games were away. They had nothing at home in those early years. There were no buildings on these campus grounds here. Everything was under construction, but classes were held in an old renovated supermarket underneath a roller rink. And if you've heard him tell stories, and some of you may remember this, that the noise, the train station was nearby, and he had to teach classes, human sexuality among them, in this area under the roller rink. So they probably missed parts of it and don't know. In the spring of 1971, classes were moved to the present campus location with only one building, still no athletic facility. Gradually, as we've heard, soccer, swimming, men's and women's tennis, volleyball, and baseball were added, and at one point or another, Dan coached every one of them except baseball, and he said that was his least area, so he hired a coach right away for that. He also served as the campus representative to the University Faculty Senate as kinesiology, and I'm told he and George Franz had some interesting adventures over the years from 1982 to 1994. Dan was involved in several grants and research projects. As a faculty member, he worked with the Navy for several years, researching aspects of safety and scuba diving. That was his thing. And he always managed to go to these exquisite places to say he was researching scuba diving. He engaged in research with John Tierney and Mary Morano, who are both here, comparing the pH of perspiration produced by males and females after mild exercise workouts. And I recall him talking about collecting the sweat from the students, yes, right?
Love that.
You always have their little sweat things. Of the impact Dan had on the campus, his interaction with the students he taught and the athletes he coached was most important. He shared many stories over the years, and some of the more memorable ones I want to share with you, in my opinion, memorable. Some of you have probably heard these stories before, but I hope, like me, every time you hear them, you smile a little bit. So I have a couple of stories, short. One of the courses Dan taught in the early years was a woodland survival course. One day he came into his office and found John Vira, who was then the CEO of the campus, sitting in his office. Apparently that happened frequently. He was there to question Dan about an incident in which some students built a tree fort. As part of the wilderness class, they had to build a tree fort. But on their own, they added finished walnut doors, glass windows, electricity, and air conditioning. There were workmen around because the campus was under construction, and they didn't know about the fort. But one day they saw the fort was 15 to 20 feet off the ground, and they saw this AC unit being hoisted up into the fort. So the mystery of missing materials was solved at that point. Another story involves the same course. Students learned to build animal snares, and Dan instructed 5 students to go into the campus woods and to set the traps. He told them 2 of them were to stay with the traps, and 3 of them should come back to him and report to the class that they'd finished their task. Unfortunately, all 5 of them came back after it was completed, listening, following directions, students, you know, it's always been a problem. A construction worker was out in the woods relieving himself, and he got caught in the trap. His co-workers heard him calling out and found him hanging upside down. Another visit from John Vira. Things were a lot different then than they are now for teaching, as you can see. When Dan was coaching soccer, several women wanted to try out. They thought there was also a women's team, but there wasn't. There was only a men's team. He allowed them to try out, and of about a dozen women, 2 of them actually made the team, and his first co-ed team was accidentally created back then, so that's good. The last story shows how important it is for departments to get along to get things accomplished. With no students still at the time for students to shower, a solution was found by the head of maintenance at the time, Lou Fisher. Showers were installed in the janitor's closet. We still just had the main building at the time. 1 on each floor of the main building, there was a shower installed. Men and women took turns outside the door, just standing guard in the hallway to make sure someone could take a shower in private before anyone came in. In 1972, fields were finally built, and by 1973, real showers were installed, but the athletic facility took another 15 years. Dan was there through it all, and his creativity continued on as he went. So these are just a few of the many adventures, and there are many, during Dan's tenure at Brandywine. He has contributed so much to the campus and to the athletic program, and I am honored to introduce him as a member of the Penn State Brandywine Athletic Hall of Fame.
It is certainly an honor and a privilege to receive this induction into the Hall of Fame. I am sorry that I cannot be present for the ceremony, but we made travel plans over a year ago. that involved our children and especially our grandchildren, so we could not change our plans. But I would like to congratulate each of the inductees. Tiz, our longest running AD and co-teacher for 30+ years. Bill, basketball coach extraordinaire. Dana, our elite basketball player, and she also returned to the campus to help coach. Julie, a dual threat athlete, basketball and soccer. And of course, Michael, our student athlete in basketball, also returned to the campus to help coach, but a life much too short. I hope to see each of you upon my return. Little did I realize when I was hired at Penn State that I would remain here for 4 decades. As with any job, you're only as good as the people you work with, and I had the best. Tiz, Ron Case, Barb Rostick, one of our first athletic trainers and longest athletic trainer and co-teacher for 20-some years, Jim Gassner and Karen Hill, just to mention a few. Also 3 administrators that really helped our programs along and gave us the freedom to run our own programs in athletics. John Viro, our CEO at the time, George Franz, Director of Academic Affairs, and Joe Biscontini, who did all the writing and publications for the athletic department. Also John Tierney, who helped us quite a bit with his research and with various aspects of the teams. We were fortunate over the years to have also hired some great coaches. Bill Wiley would be a good example of that. 12 years of excellence. When I started at Penn State, my mandate was to teach in the Department of Health and start adding sport team to the single team of men's basketball. We added women's basketball my first year, and of course I ended up coaching 7 a.m. in the morning at the Chester YMCA. I did find out though that basketball was not my forte and hired a coach for the following year. Over the years, the athletic directors have carried the ball and added and funded numerous teams, and they are doing great. It is so nice to see so many athletes at Brandywine. A big thank you to Bobby, Jeff, and her staff for their untiring support of athletics. To the athletes, I congratulate each of you for your academic achievement while also pursuing a sport. Life has a habit of throwing twists and turns when we least expect it, but athletes as a whole are pretty well equipped to absorb these obstacles. It's your training and your sacrifices that make you strong and resilient. I wish you the best. Remember, your coaches are there to help you on and off the field. You can lean on them. To the parents, a big thank you for your support of your athlete and to the university. And again, thank you very much for this award.
Our next inductee was an exceptional 2-sport athlete at Penn State, Delaware County from 1991 to 1993. Julie Munch was a member of the women's basketball team and men's soccer team. Yes, you heard that correctly, the men's soccer team. Julie's highlights included a 1992-93 women's basketball conference championship and was a major contributor to the men's soccer team who reached the conference semifinals. After transferring to main campus for her final 2 years, Julie competed at the Division I level for the Nittany Lions women's soccer program. Here with us this evening to introduce Julie into the Hall of Fame is her mother, Nancy Munch.
Hi, everyone. It's just wonderful to be here.
What a day, what a night it's been. But Penn State has always been close to my heart and my family. But tonight it's even more special, as I would like to present my loving, kind, generous, precious, beautiful, Hall of Famer daughter, Julie Ann Much.
My dad, who I know is watching down from heaven on us tonight. Good evening, and I would like to thank all of you for being here tonight for this very special occasion. I would especially like to thank my family and my friends for their support and for joining me tonight. Thank you, Penn State Brandywine Athletic Hall of Fame Committee, for putting this together. The Penn State Brandywine Inaugural Athletic Hall of Fame, which took years of research and a lot of hard work. Thank you to my soccer coach, Alan Miller, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, my basketball coaches, Ron Freeman, CeCe Grimes, and a very special thank you to Tiz and Dan, who was unable to make it tonight, as you know, my fellow Penn State Brandywine Athletic Hall of Famers, who helped guide me through my athletic and academic career here at Penn State Delco. It was a bit of a different journey for me in this sports world. I grew up playing all kinds of sports, soccer, basketball, softball, track and field, anything I could play I would. Any spare time that I had, I was playing basketball in my driveway, kicking around the soccer ball in the field, training, running, roller skating, anything to stay active. At the beginning of my junior year in high school at Strathaven, I was 15 years old. I started having problems with my back, but I was still playing sports, soccer, basketball, and softball. By the end of that year and the beginning of my senior year, the problems with my back became a lot worse. My parents had taken me to doctor after doctor trying to find out what was wrong. So I had an MRI and it showed a herniated disc at L4, L5 that had collapsed on my sciatic nerve. I was in constant pain, had trouble walking, my leg would drag. I couldn't sit for long periods of time. I went through months and months of therapy, shots, crutches, traction. There was no relief. The only other option was surgery. But I was so young at the time and still growing, no doctor wanted to perform the surgery because it was so close to my lower spine. So one day my mom was reading the sports page of the Philadelphia Inquirer and read an article about a player on the Flyers team that had the same exact injury as me and had a successful lumbar laminectomy at Thomas Jefferson Hospital by Dr. Robert Balderston. She called the doctor directly, told him my age, what was wrong, and begged him to help me because no one else would. And thankfully he did. So in February of my senior year in high school, at 16 years old, I had major back surgery, a lumbar laminectomy. It was a success. I had instant relief, but I was in the hospital for about a week and out of school for 6. So my senior year was basically a complete bust for sports. The surgery was a success, but due to the injury, I was told I would never play sports again and would probably be in a wheelchair by the time I was 30. So that was a lot to take in at 16 years old. I had a tough time mentally, trying to wrap my head around everything, the injury, the surgery, missing all that time at school my senior year, never playing sports again, but I kept my head up and just kept moving. I did my own therapy after my surgery. There was no way I wanted to go back to another doctor's office for a long time. I was done. During this time, my parents told me the only college I would be going to was Penn State. They love Penn State. A lot of their friends' kids went to Penn State, so it was my only choice. I didn't even apply anywhere else. It was great. I was great with it because I love Penn State too. So fast forward to August, I'm officially a student at Penn State Delco, not even thinking about playing sports anymore. Until I made the D1 team. It was a really exciting moment, to say the least. So I feel like my life has been a life of firsts. From being the youngest person my doctor ever performed a lumbar laminectomy on, to being the first female soccer player to play on the men's team here at Penn State Delco, to being a part of the first ever women's NCAA Division I soccer team at Penn State main campus, to be the first and only athlete to compete in the same sport, soccer, at 3 different levels, CCAC here at Delco, Division I club, and NCAA Division I varsity at Penn State main campus, and now being inducted into the first ever Penn State Brandywine Athletic Hall of Fame. People used to ask me when I graduated from Penn State, if you could change anything you've accomplished so far in your life, would you? And I have always and will always say no. My family, my friends, my life experiences before Penn State, during Penn State, and after Penn State all led me to be here in front of you today. I am extremely proud to be a Penn Stater. I'm extremely honored to be inaugurated into Penn State Brandywine's first ever Athletic Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Our next inductee was, until last week, the all-time leading scorer in Penn State women's basketball history. Sorry, Dana, they say timing is everything. Dana Johnson-Apatelli rewrote the record books at Penn State, Delaware County from 2003 to 2007. She was the first four-year women's player on campus and needed just 48 games to become the first student athlete in program history to reach 1,000 points. Dana finished her career with 1,519 points, 7 30-point games, and the only 40-point game in program history. A brief story to emphasize Dana's competitive nature. During a conference all-star game, here held on campus, with her team down 2 points, it's an all-star game, let's just kind of get over with it, Dana persuaded Coach Joe D'Antonio at the time to take a timeout and draw up a play so she could take the final shot. In typical Dana fashion, she drained the three-point basket as time expired to win the game. Here to introduce Dana into the Hall of Fame, please welcome current women's basketball coach, Larry Johnson.
I think Dana and Kara are enjoying this a little too much. I know I don't like speaking. What can I say about Dana Johnson? Players like her come along every once in a while. On the basketball court, Dana was hardworking, a fierce competitor, relentless on defense, but also a great leader and a great teammate. But also, never saw a shot she didn't like. Dana the person is a kind, caring, a leader, and has a heart of gold. She's a wonderful daughter, a great mother, and a wonderful wife. Dana is arguably the best women's basketball player to come through Penn State Brandywine or Penn State Delaware County. Again, unfortunately, up until last week, she was the all-time leading scorer. And then Nikki, who probably would be a fortunate Hall of Famer, knocked down 5 straight threes to kind of, knock that down. Dana did threaten to, maybe twist her ankle a couple weeks ago. I told her, we're trying to win some games, so we don't need Nikki hurt. Like Vinny was saying, she scored 30, she had 7 30-point games and scored 42 points. I believe that was against Mount Alto. We needed all 42 of those baskets from her to come out with a win. Dana did more than just score, though. She was one of our best defenders. Whenever we needed a stop, when Joe was the head coach and when I became the head coach her senior year, we could look to her to get that steal we needed or get that, cover the best defender. You can't say that about a lot of scorers. Most scorers, they just want the ball in their hands. They want to shoot the ball. But she was willing to play defense. She was willing to, take a charge. She was willing, to get a rebound. Okay, that's what makes her, I believe one of the best players to come through, at least since I've been here. My first year as an assistant, I do have to say, she helped me transition from coaching boys to girls. I was an assistant coach at Pencrest High School for boys for about 8 years. And I'm an in-your-face type coach. And I came here with Jody Antonio as an assistant. I didn't know how I was going to coach, women's basketball. So I was kind of taking a laid-back approach. I didn't really say much in practice. And she came to me one time, she's like, Coach, you never say anything in practice. You know, what are you doing here if you're not going to say anything goes in practice? So I was like, well, you know, I'm still trying to find my niche, trying to find a way. I was kind of, you know, always in the face with boys and everything. She's like, so you're going to treat us differently? She's like, you think because you holler at a girl we're going to break? She's like, I'm not going to break if you holler at me. I need to treat you to treat me like you're going to treat the boys. So Bobby and Maisha, you can blame Dana for the way that I used to holler at you guys. But that really helped me, just knowing that there's, you know, for her to break that down. And, you know, we became friends over the years. She came back after her senior year and coached for 1 year. Then she decided to, you know, get married and have a family, which was a great decision. I've been trying every year to try to get her back to coach because I think she has a lot of wealth of knowledge. It's a great honor to, you know, introduce Dana Johnson Annabella as a Hall of Fame class.
This is such an honor to be inducted into the First Class Hall of Fame. I am extremely humbled and grateful. Thank you to my family, my teammates, coaches, Barb, Tiz, for getting us through my years at Penn State. It was a great experience coming in as a freshman and having a season as 1-19, but an even greater experience winning the championship at Bryce Jordan Center in 2007. Congrats to all the inductees, and thank you, Bobby, for putting together such a wonderful event.
For reasons that sometimes we can't understand, individuals enter our lives and are taken away too soon. In the case of Michael Menachini, he had a positive impact on everything he did, leaving his imprint along the way. Michael was the captain of the men's basketball team from 1995 to 96, averaged over 20 points per game, and to our knowledge has the only triple-double in program history. A winner of the Samuel Cosens Award as one of the top basketball players in the region, Michael continued to give back to the Penn State community, serving separate tenures as both women's and men's basketball assistant coach. Michael's legacy and spirit lives on at Penn State Brandywine through the annual Michael Menachini Service Award, given to a Penn State faculty member, staff member, student, or coach who goes above and beyond to support Brandywine athletics. Although he is gone, Michael will forever live on as a Nittany Lion. Here to accept and induct Michael Menachini into the Hall of Fame is his sister, Lauren Menachini Donovan.
Gosh, what a moment this is. I can't tell you. I can't believe it's been 20 years as I stand here today and I listen to that wonderful introduction. I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I didn't think I'd be emotional, so I'll try to contain that as much as possible. On behalf of my parents, both Ralph and Helene Menachini, I want to thank Penn State Brandywine Hall of Fame Committee for selecting Michael as an inductee in the inaugural Hall of Fame. I also want to congratulate all the other fellow inductees. I had time to read all of your bios, and I commend you for outstanding contributions. I played basketball. I would have loved to play with you. I'm a little older, but we would have been thick as thieves, yeah. In presenting on behalf of Michael's whole family, I really can't begin to discuss the meaning of this induction without first talking about second chances. So I'm going to ask all of you right now to think for a moment. By show of hands, how many of you tonight have been given a second chance at some point in your life? I'm serious, raise your hand. That's all of you, mostly. My kids are like third, fourth, fifth chances all the time. I couldn't let that one go. So Penn State Brandywine was Michael's second chance. You see, he began his academic and his athletic career at the University of Sciences in Philadelphia. But he couldn't seem to overcome the challenge of something known as organic chemistry. He took it twice to no avail. And at the time, failing 2 classes there meant that students couldn't continue with their program. And I'll tell you, the day that he found out that he failed out, he asked me, I was in high school at the time, to take a ride with him into the city because he was trying to meet with a professor to convince him to change his D to a C. And I can remember, this is not on my script, but I can remember sitting in his slate-colored Dodge Dynasty, we called it the Dynasty, with the car running, listening to Bruce Springsteen. And I'm waiting for him to come out of the faculty office. And as he leaves, the doors open, and his head is hung as low as I ever remember seeing it hung. And he gets in the car, and I know at that moment, he is not going back to the College of the Sciences. And I feel terrible for him. I feel scared for what's going to happen when he talks to my parents in about 35 minutes after that. But they were wonderful and supportive about that. But I tell my children all the time, they'll say this, that you win some and you learn. You see, if you look at failure as purely a loss, you miss the opportunity to grow. Failure teaches us far greater lessons than winning ever will, if we just pay attention. Instead of climbing into a hole like most people would after failing out of college, Michael decided to formulate a plan B. Penn State was that plan B. And it ended up being Michael's greatest learning experience. You can read his biography and how much he contributed athletically to the university. But I was trying to think when I was preparing tonight, what would Michael say if he were here, right? And I know that the focus of his acceptance speech would be on how much Penn State changed his life. This was the place he called home. So much so that he stayed on even after he graduated to help coach both the men's and the women's team. He loved Penn State. It gave him exactly what he needed after experiencing what was the biggest setback in his life at that time. It gave him community. It gave him friendship. It gave him family. And it gave him a purpose. I'm sure you can imagine how horrible it must feel to fail out of school as a 20-year-old, right? Traumatizing. It gave him the chance to be the best version of himself before passing away. It let him know that his past failures, they didn't define him. And that he could actualize his potential and grow into a person of character and integrity. When I saw Tiz tonight, and I didn't connect with her yet, but I saw her. Tiz, are you here right now so I can look at you? Hi, how are you? Do you remember me? You were so cute. I loved you. And I did see Coach Wiley. We hugged. It was great to see him too. I have to tell you, and Michael loved you like his family.
I love Michael.
I know. And as I walked through this campus tonight, it all came back to me that Michael's here tonight. I actually have no doubt that his spirit is here right now. I have no doubt. It lives on here in this campus. And I can tell you on behalf of my family, we are so grateful for all that the university gave to Michael in his very short life. And for giving us a chance. When someone passes away, after 20 years, you're looking for a chance to celebrate them again. You're looking for a chance to think about them and talk about them. And as more time goes by, that gets lost. But tonight, right guys, tonight, we get to celebrate Michael. Thank you.
Our next inductee, we're thrilled to have with us here this evening. Coach Bill Wiley was the longest tenured basketball coach in campus history, as he headed the men's basketball team for 15 seasons from 1986 through 2001. Coach Wiley directed the Lions to a record 196 wins during that time and guided his team to the postseason in 6 straight seasons. A 3-time Coach of the Year, Coach Wiley also led the 92-93 team to a 24-0 undefeated regular season. Personally, Coach Wiley is the individual that got me hooked on college basketball. Coach Wiley's best attribute is his ability to mentor student athletes and turn them into outstanding men. Here with us tonight to induct Coach Wiley into the Hall of Fame is former Penn State athlete and coach, Joe Junta.
Wow, that's a tough one to follow. Lauren, great job. Michael was a special guy. I don't know why I'm emotional. I'm not introducing Mike. But, I couldn't believe Coach was next after that. I coached Mike, and I really connected with him, and he's missed. Anyway, Vinny, Penn State Brandywine, Penn State Delco staff and administration, thank you for putting this all together. It is really a special event, and I've been to a lot of these. The chicken was good, the tortellini was good, the dessert was good, everything. I've been to some bad ones. This is pretty good. So, thank you. So it is my distinct honor and privilege to be here to introduce Bill Wiley into the Penn State Brandywine. That's going to be tough for me. If I slip once or twice, I apologize. Still go. Penn State Brandywine Athletic Hall of Fame. I would like to congratulate all the inductees. Coach Wiley obviously means a heck of a lot to me. Mike obviously means a heck of a lot to me. And Tizzy, one of my favorite people in the world. I'm getting so emotional now. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Not even you. I was great before that. But seriously, this room, there is a lot of Delco, not just the great group of inductees, but a lot of just Delco who's who. Penn State Delco who's who, but just Delco who's who. I am thrilled to be here. Coach Wiley recruited me out of Cardinal O'Hara High School. I was sort of a forgotten senior on a pretty talented Catholic League runner-up team. We beat Bonner 3 times that year. But and he recruited me. That wasn't in the script either. But he recruited me the right way, and my mother and father and I knew that Coach Wiley was the right man, and Penn State Delco was the right place for me. So I went on to play at Penn State Delco, arguably the best team in Coach Wiley's existence. We went on to Penn State main campus. That other team that was not undefeated did not. 25-1, I guess. That's pretty good. But we went up to main campus, lost the heartbreaker in the the state championship, CCAC championship. But then I coached with him for a couple years here at Penn State Delco. Then I went on to Newman College and played, and we worked together as he was an assistant coach at Newman, and we worked together again as he was assistant coach at Cabrini, while I was athletic director and did a little twisting of the arms to have the respective head coaches at those institutions to hire Coach Wiley. But over the years, he became a great friend and a valuable mentor for me in life and also in my career. Coach Wiley provided direction and structure for me as an 18-year-old student athlete at Penn State Delco. He was with me when I missed my entire freshman year, tore a ligament. I still remember who stepped on my foot and made me kind of tear my ligaments. He shall remain nameless, but Coach Wiley and Coach Tosti were in the hospital with me and welcomed me with open arms to come and join the team that year as a freshman, when all I could do was really cheer for the team. And I believe I made every trip and just about every practice. And many times he had to tell me to sit the hell down because I was overshooting in the corner, trying to make it back, and probably distracted him from practice a couple times, but Coach, I appreciate that. But Coach Wiley and Tizzy were two of the most impactful people and role models for me, who positively affected me with their mentorship, compassion, leadership, and friendship, which guided me into a career of athletic administration. So Coach is all the things that I just detailed thus far, but boy, he's so much more. He's one hell of a recruiter, I can tell you that. Just ask him, he'll tell you. He had Colin Gillespie coming to Cabrini. Yes, national champion, Villanova Wildcat, Colin Gillespie. I believe he led Villanova today, so it went over Providence. I didn't see the last couple of minutes, but he was coming to Cabrini. And Coach Wiley recruited him. Jay Wright just at the last minute came in, scooped him up. I'm sure that still stings a little bit, Coach, but I know you have. He is a motivator, and he certainly ranks right up there with those best pregame and halftime speeches in the business. You don't want to sit up front, though. When Coach Wiley, worked himself into a lather, you do not want to be up front. I don't know if it was sweat or spit or what it was, but you were getting moist. You were getting wet sitting in the front. I'm telling you. And his fist bumps are priceless. You got to know when they're about ready to come. So he gets one of his fist pumps. If you're in front of him, you're going down. And the one, there's a lot, but the one sort of Wiley-ism or a yell that you hear as you hear him, Joey, I just don't see any sense of urgency out there. There's got to be a sense of urgency. That was Coach Wiley, and that always got us going. Coach is passionate, and he always gave his all to his team at Penn State Delco, and I've certainly witnessed, as we all have, many a clipboard and many a locker that did not bode well in his presence. He's broken a few. I think he might have broken his hand in Williamson Trade School one year, right, Coach? Punching lockers, but that's how he tried to motivate us. And Coach is and always has been very respectful of the game and all those that were involved. This will come as no surprise to hear this story. I was not there, but one of his assistant coaches, Frank Farnese, who was here, shared this story with me. I believe it was at Hazleton and against good friend Tom Cassis. By the way, Tom sends his love. Wish he could have been here tonight. But Coach Wiley, I believe he told Frank he was going to do this, but the minute the buzzer went off, he rushed off the court and he ran to the referee's locker room. And I'm sure it was just to wish them well. A couple of pleasantries. Thanks so much for the game you had tonight. Really can't wait to see you again. Those refs, for some reason, never refed anywhere but at Hazleton. It was always a special thing when you played at Hazleton, right, Coach? Tom Cassis. That's right. And I bet Coach, I didn't know Coach as a young man, obviously, he's a little older than me, but I bet he was a pretty good athlete. I had never seen, if there was a sport, hurling sports jackets, he would have been the one. So maybe he was a discus thrower or a javelin or something, but he put on this helicopter move, and that blue blazer went up at least 25 rows. I think we should put something like, Willie Stargell's home run ball in the vet stadium in that seat. We should put that bleacher. Bill Wiley threw his blue blazer here. But enough fun. We could go on and on about Coach Wiley and the amount of people and former players and former coaches and friends here is a testament to that he is a special guy. Coach, I love you, as so do many people in this room and many that could not make it. You've been a major contributor to my success as a student athlete, a man, a husband, a father, and a professional, and couldn't be more proud to be here tonight to introduce you and share this moment with you. This is a special honor for a special man, and well deserved. I want to thank you on behalf of the countless student athletes here and not tonight, assistant coaches, officials, and all the people that have been so fortunate to know you and work with you over the years. In my humble opinion, there is no better group of individuals to be the first class to enter the Penn State Brandywine Athletic Hall of Fame, and thrilled to introduce Coach Bill Wiley.
Thanks, Joe. That was awesome. It really was. I think he hit a lot of the major points.
Later tonight, we're going to do the rest of them.
You missed the glass throwing.
I did.
I guess Joe DeMayo could probably tell everybody about that one. But I'd like to congratulate my fellow honorees. I never saw Dana play, but her record speaks for itself. Julie was here, was a student athlete when I was coaching, and excelled in 2 sports. I knew Dan before I started here. Funny story is I knew Dan through kind of hanging out at the bars. And I just knew it was Ron Casey's friend. And so I come to interview here, and Dan is interviewing me. It's like, oh no, what happened? So I knew Dan from there. Tiz always had an open door policy for me. Listened to all my problems and was always there to help me. And Michael, great player, great human being. I can honestly say this, that of all my players in my 39 years of coaching, no one was respected more by his teammates than Mike was. And made it easy for me coaching him when your best player buys into what you're trying to do. And, I'd like to thank Bobby and the Penn State Brandywine and the Hall of Fame committee for putting this honor on me. I didn't know Bobby. I came up one day to introduce myself, and her and Jeff spent a good hour and a half getting to know me and reminiscing about the past. And I left the day saying, boy, they got a good athletic director. They got a good program there. So, and she's done a great job with this. Growing up, I loved all sports. I wasn't a great athlete. Basketball was my favorite. I can remember for my birthday, my dad buying me a pole in the net, putting it out there, and having like bloodbaths with my brother one-on-one, which he probably won about 1,000, and I won once maybe. But and shooting hours upon hours in my driveway. But when my high school career was over, I knew I couldn't play in college, and I wanted to keep involved. And obviously, as Joe made it out, I probably wasn't going to be a good referee. and I don't even know if he remembers this, but my cousin Bill Daggett, who's here, was head of the Springfield Ed Co, and he got me to coach my freshman year in college, and I started there, and I loved it, but I'm a college kid and I had a lot going on, so I kind of gave up the coaching shortly after I started. But something I always wanted to keep in the back of my mind. When I graduated college, a family friend, Joe Wazinski, became the head coach at Delaware County Community College, and he hired me as his assistant. He let me be his assistant, and he basically paid me out of his own pocket. But it was a great experience because Joe was like a brilliant offensive mind and taught me a lot about the fundamentals of the game, which haven't changed, and in 39 years, still remember them. But the most important thing that I learned from Joe was the reason why he gave me the job was because he could trust me, and he knew that I wouldn't be going behind his back. And I thought, boy, if I was ever head coach, that was something I would really look for in my assistant coaches. After 3 years with Joe, the job opened up at Delaware County, and I applied for the job, and I didn't get it. It was disappointing, but in retrospect, it was probably the best thing because I got to go to Malvern Prep and serve with another one of my coaching mentors, Bud Toski. And with Joe, I learned a lot about the offensive end. Buddy was a master of man-to-man defense, and being as his JV coach, I got to make the decisions instead of suggesting the decisions. So as a young coach coming up, couldn't have two better mentors than Joe and Buddy, and I appreciate everything they did for me. When this job opened, like I said, I interviewed with Tiz and Dan, and Ron Case was the athletic director, and it took forever to get the job. I mean, it took forever, like I thought it was like a year, And then one day Ron called, and I'm all excited, and he's like, hey, we still haven't come up with a coach yet, but I just want to tell you, you're right there, you're one of the finalists. So it's like, oh, great, now I have to, another 2 weeks or whatever. Then Ron called and offered me the job, and, I thought I was, coaching Duke or Villanova or something. That was like the greatest thing. And we practiced at Meaty Boys Club Larry Johnson's father ran it. Jumbo, great man. He used to like sneak me extra gym time, like let me come in on a Sunday. But you have to go up there and you had to like crank the baskets down, and it was tough. And then we played at Northleaf Junior High, and I never saw Northleaf Junior High until my first game. And I had to take the shot clocks out of my car and take them down on the court. And it's like, oh my gosh, the game started like 9 o'clock at night because they had, the yoga class or something before we had to wait for that to be over. But then reality set in, and we were 8-16. And we were playing all sophomores, which means I had to replace this whole team. So it's like, ooh, and I can remember, going out and recruiting, and we were talking about today, but Joe DeMayo was my first recruit. I brought him up campus, and we met in the trailer that's still there on the side, and I was walking around, and I'm showing him the gym. I said, Joe, this is the gym. It was just a bunch of dirt and mud, but they said it's going to be finished by your sophomore. I said it's going to be finished by your sophomore year, and so those doing a decent job recruiting and getting lucky with a couple kids. They took their lumps as freshmen, but came back when the gym opened. And I think we were 18-6 in Joe's sophomore year. And I think that really set the groundwork for our basketball program. And that enabled us to recruit, Joe Junta, and Craig Killinan, and Breon Justice, Jeff Danzy, Eddie Corliss. And I think the program took off from there. Basketball has just been great to me. I've developed lifelong friendships and lifelong relationships with many, many people. And I'm honored that they are here today to share this moment with me. It's a sport where, you're at each other's throat, and after the game, the two coaches go out and have a beer together. It's recruiting, getting to know the high school coaches, recruiting their players, and some of them recruiting their sons, and them trusting you enough that you're going to take care of you. And it's been the greatest thing in my life. There's many people that's helped me on this journey. I think the first would have to be my mom and dad. I think about them a lot, and I miss them. My mom went to one game, and I got a technical foul. So never set foot in the gym again to watch it. My dad came to all my games and would say to my brother, like, what's he doing? Man, oh man. But, I know they're looking down on me as proud as can be. My brother Stephen and my sister Patty, we all work together, and they sacrificed a lot of their life so I could make the trip every day from Center City to Malvern Prep, and then from Eddystone, the leader trip from Eddystone to Middletown. Lou Tosti, who was my assistant for many, many years, Lou was the epitome of the Joe Wazinski theory of the assistant coach that was loyal and would never betray you. And Lou and I spent, I talked to Lou on the phone a couple weeks ago, and we probably spent about 10 or 12 years together. And we had our disagreements more times than not. He was right, but he was just a loyal person. I wish he could have been here, but couldn't get here. Tiz had that open door for a frustrated basketball coach and listened to all my problems about life, about work, about the team, and just was so honored, that she spent that much time with me. All my assistant coaches, among them Joe DeMayo, Joe Junta, Jimmy Halligan, Frank Farnese, Tom Rayer, Mike Menachini, they spent thousands of hours, and same thing, got paid peanuts or nothing, and did a great job. And the most important thing was, most of them were ex-players that came back and wanted to help me. Head coaches, Joe Wazinski, but Tosti I mentioned before, but Brian Nugent from Newman, and John Barron from Word and Mercy, Marcus Kahn at Cabrini, and Tim McDonald. They treated me more like a co-coach than an assistant coach. And last but not least, my players. None of them on scholarship, spent many, many, many long nights, scary van rides, and represented the school, represented the basketball program and the school tremendously. And I just appreciate everything they've done. Like I said, basketball has been great to me. I'm honored that I have so many people came here tonight to share my special night. I'm honored to get this award, humbled by it, and I will always remember Penn State Brandywine in my heart. Thank you.
That's what you have a personal photography.
When you think of Penn State Delaware County athletics, the vision of our next and our final inductee is etched into our brains. Tiz Griffith was the face of Penn State Delco from her start as a kinesiology professor in 1981. She was also a field hockey, tennis, and ballroom dancing coach. Many people don't know that about Tiz. Until being formally named as the campus athletic director in 1989, a position she held until 2004. Under Tizzy's guidance, the campus began the expansion of the Commons Gym, Fitness Center, and the Ethel Sargent Clark Smith Tennis Complex. Tiz was my mentor throughout my studies at Penn State Delaware County, and I love her dearly. One day I was hanging around the gym, which I usually did, and she said, "Hey you, do you want to paint the soccer lines?" I said, "Sure, why not? What did I know?" Next, she asked me, in a way that only Tiz can, to learn how to work the game and shot clock for home basketball events. After 25 years at the scorer's table, I haven't left. It's all her fault. If you look around here tonight and you hear all these names mentioned, all of our inductees, former coaches, our former players, that's the one thing in common with all of them, Tiz Griffith. Here to introduce Tiz tonight into the Hall of Fame is retired Penn State professor and the man who collected all of the knowledge of Penn State athletics throughout the years, Joe Biscontini.
Thank you, Vince. Being a friend of Tiz is a lot of fun. And even on those days when maybe not so much fun, you won't be bored. It's been 40 years. 40 years of friendship that...
We met when I was 10.
And you must have taken care of me because I'm a lot younger. I don't want to know. No, when I heard she was getting this award tonight, I didn't read the criteria, but I assumed it was three-pronged. Number one, her own athletic prowess. Well, let's start with that. As an athlete, this is an All-American. This woman was on the United States field hockey team and competed on both coasts as a junior at Temple University. All right, so we can start with that. Second, you've heard hints of it from almost every speaker tonight. Her tenure here was teaching, mentoring, it was nurturing, it was encouraging, nourishing. Her athletes, her advisees, and like some of you indicated, people just walked in from the hallway, for some counseling service. And third, service to the campus. Did a wonderful job with the program, I think, and I'm not going to repeat all the things that's in there because I don't have a lot of time. And I want to talk about some other stuff. But please read that because it is quite an accomplishment. One of the things noted in there is the Bob Scannell Roll of Honor Award. That's given to people throughout the state of Pennsylvania from the Center College. But another one is the Madeline Haynes Award that she got. Very proud of that because the two predecessors who were selected for that were rather academic people, and Tiz didn't think she was in the same league with them. And she was the third winner of that award, named in honor of a former DAA. I think that's one of the things you're most proud of that came out of here. A room full of athletes and families of athletes here, so you don't need me to go through what it takes. It's your talent,
innate or nurtured, or homegrown, your practice, persistence, dedication, determinism, and all of that stuff you've heard coaches and families and siblings talk to you about over the years. There's one other word there, and I think Joe said it, he used it in his remarks for Bill. Use the word passion, right? And I think the best among you possess that element, along with everything else, all right? A lot of talent without that passion, you're maybe not here tonight, I don't know. I think that's very, very, very important. Tiz took over the department after Dan, and when she became athletic director, she was the athletic department. There was no assistant until Barb Rostick came a few years later, and she had only Vince to do the scoreboard with her. I teased her, I think it was at her 25th, I don't know, 25th chair anniversary or when you retired, and I said at the podium that one of her greatest accomplishments as athletic director was that during those years, nothing bad happened. And people snickered, thought that was a backhanded compliment. But you know, it's not. Yeah. When you realize what she did, because I watched her do this. And in those years, there were 7 varsity sports for men and women in 2 different conferences. There were 5 club sports. And little things like rugby, street hockey, and ice hockey. What could go wrong there? She had to hire the coaches. She obtained the officials and trainer for the home games. She had to arrange the travel for kids that were going up to a place called Hazleton. You hope it didn't snow before the game was over. You know, and this was before. Well, it's just before you used a computer, but it's still before you used a computer. It was all telephone work, so if something happened, if it snowed or whatever, there was a change in all these schedules that she had to do that. She taught 2 courses during that same time. She also supervised, I didn't know this until recently, supervised the student teachers who came out of University Park campus and they were placed at elementary schools and middle schools and high schools in the Philadelphia region. She was their supervisor and had to go out and check and see how they were doing, and if there were a problem, had to either pretend she didn't hear it or get out of town fast or try to fix it, right? There were the usual bumps in the road, you know, things didn't always go right. There was an errant coach or 2 that had to be dealt with. There were problems. She had to go to faculty meetings. There were a couple of other Penn State-y kind of meetings. I don't know if Penn State's could be a little bureaucratic at times. But she did all that, and I said, Tiz, with all that, and you not only grew the program and you opened a gym, and no kids missed the bus, or nothing bad happened because of your attention to the detail and the wonderful job you did with that. I mentioned the word passion. And I want to give you a story, an example of that. Actually, my toughest job in trying to keep the time down for this was choosing between 2 stories. Can I tell both stories? Yeah. It's only 8:15. One of them I wasn't even there for the first one. But I want to talk about the passion, and I mentioned how much fun it was to be around Tiz sometimes. Some years ago, I told Tiz a story about a California vacation that I'd taken. And it included what was supposed to be a 2-hour horseback ride at sunset along the Big Sur beaches. And it turned into a 3-hour nightmare with a reluctant horse and a groin pull. Mine, not the horse's. During a series of thunderstorms that honestly God made the news the next day. It was so unusual for this to happen. Well, I've never had anybody laugh so hard at a story. It's a very funny story, but it's a long story. It's a 20-minute story. Seriously, it is a 20-minute story. And she was on every word of it and just loved that story and kept asking me, tell the other people the story, tell them the story. And I couldn't always tell them the story. And she was in the car with Janet. You were there. I wasn't there. You were there, and Joe Buckmaster. And Tiz started telling the story. My story, my groin pull, my horse she's telling the story, and she can't stop laughing. And she had that little blue Chrysler convertible at the time. And she, I think they're just going up to the country deli, 2 miles up the road. And the harder she laughed, the faster she went. And the car would be in front of us, she'd have to put on the brake, laugh and tell more of the story and pick up the speed. By all reports, the car was internally hemorrhaging over a story that she just enjoyed so much. She passionately gets into good stories, as she does politics, movies, all kinds of stuff, right? The rest of her friends know. The other story was the one that I had planned to tell you tonight, and it demonstrates passion. She doesn't need to be behind the wheel of a car to do that. We frequently went to lunch together. There were a bunch of us, administrators and faculty, and sometimes went to lunch, but often in good weather we either play tennis or we'd go out and walk on the perimeter of the campus, the roads. There were no paths on the campus at the time. We'd go out and walk for exercise. And the cast changed each day. Joan Mandel in sociology, Tiz Griffith, some other people from the phys ed department, and I was there frequently to go on these walks. There was a short walk. If you went down Yearsley Mill Road and you got to the bottom of the hill, you turned right. And you keep turning right, you come back up to the soccer field, right? That's a 2.9-mile walk, right? The longer one, though, you really got good exercises, go down Yearsley Mill Road, turn left, and then right again. I think it's Darlington Road, long, winding road, lots of hills. That's a 4.1-mile walk, right? And now we didn't race walk, but we didn't stroll either. So it usually took us about 42 minutes to come back from that 4.1-mile walk, come back out into the soccer fields and the campus. On this particular day, there were just 3 of us. I was there, Tiz was there, and our good friend, a gentle giant of a man named Pete Coleman, who was the director of student life or student services.
Played at Villanova for Jack Kraft.
He played at Villanova for Jack Kraft. Okay. So he was an athlete as well. Right? On that particular day, it was announced, Pete announced, I guess, that he had made some administrative decisions that involved personnel changes and the like within student life and student services. Changes that made Tiz extremely unhappy, distraught. She laid into him the minute we met outside the door and just berated him for the choices he had made and all the reasons why. And the madder she got, the faster she walked. And now we're going down Yearsley Mill Road, and I'm walking behind them. I want to keep up with them with my short little legs because I wanted to hear what she said. It wasn't nice, but it was funny. And poor Pete, who, he was going faster too, but I think he was just trying to get away from me. And every time that we get to the bottom of the hill and down, they turn left. Yeah. So now we're going up the long way. We got 4.1 miles to do this. And there was a break. If she got out of breath for a minute, Pete tried very quietly in his very gentle way to explain the rationale of his decision, and that set her off, right? And we were trucking. I remember coming down Middletown Road, coming up onto what is now the backside of the baseball field and the soccer field. And I'm sweating, and my legs are rubbery, and I look at my watch. We did that in 31 minutes. We beat our personal best by 10 minutes. And this was a break for Pete, because when we got back to the building, we ran into the locker rooms. She probably wasn't going to come in there after him, right? And Pete looked at me and said, "You got real sweaty." And I said, "Pete, if you could just get her that PO'd twice a week, I'd be in great shape." Those weren't my exact words, but Michael's nephews are here. But on foot, behind the wheel, the passion was there. These changes didn't affect her. They affected the campus and what she thought was not great with the campus. I think we all are in good shape, a little bit from knowing Tiz. We're in good shape, maybe physically, mentally, spiritually, intellectually, because of having her in our life. She's an important part of my life, I am very honored to have her come up here and accept induction into the first Hall of Fame at Penn State. Brandywine.
That. This is an emotional night. I didn't even feel that till I saw all these young men I knew. Now they're men. They're men. And they're old men. And like my kids. I wish my kids would say all those nice things about me. But no, I love all you guys, but I do have a wonderful family. My sons are here. My daughter and her family are in a wedding in Colombia. My sister has to help me because I'm in my 80th year. But, and I have 3 of my 12 grandchildren here, and I love them to death. And they are my real joy. You're my second joy, all of you people. I'm really touched by all this with these wonderful friends of mine that are also inducted into the first Penn State, as it's hard for us to say, Brandywine Hall of Fame. Dan Duran, he taught me the tricks to the trade. We can't always tell, Barbara and I can't tell what he's taught us. Of course, Dana. I knew all these people were here when I was here, and they were unbelievable. I was an athletic director when Dana was here, but I never missed her games and always cheered for her. And we've become good friends. She's a wonderful mother. I had lunch with her and her children a couple times. Julie Munch, what a soccer player. We couldn't provide women's soccer, but Julie was such a tremendous all-conference. And we were so proud when she went up to University Park and made that Division I team. Michael Menachini was very, very, very special. Dr. Franz is here. He was Director of Academic Affairs, and he would call me in the summer and let me know about any transfer who was coming in who was a basketball player. And he let us know about Michael. And of course, I would call Billy right away and tell him. And
I don't think I was supposed to do that.
oh, but that's all right. But wait a minute. Then another time, I had a question. He called me and he said, "Geez, we have a transfer coming in. He's a basketball player and his name's Michael Jordan." And I thought, oh, now he's really pulling my leg, you know. But no, Michael Jordan transferred from Princeton and loved our campus. And he was, Billy, was he on the 24? Yeah, he was on that.
He was ineligible the first semester.
Because he transferred.
And he needed a 4.0 to be eligible, and he said, "Don't worry, Drew, it's a piece of cake."
He got a 4.0. He remembers transferring from Princeton. If he didn't get a 4.0, we'd be a little ticked off. But Michael Menachini was what I always believed, the best student athlete that I saw. He impressed me so much that I established an award that they still present to someone at every sports banquet. Michael was unbelievable, and as Joe got so emotional, I loved him. And besides being so wonderful, it's funny, he used to say to Vince, "Watch out, Tiz, Vinny wants your job." But I'm responsible for good things. I taught Vinny how to do the scoreboard, and now he's the most well-known scorekeeper in all of Delaware County. I hired Barbara Rostick. I knew Larry Johnson when he was a little boy playing at the boys' club, when my sons were playing basketball at the boys' club. And Larry came, and he's just, I take credit for some of these people. And they are the best. And Did I mention everyone? Remember, I'm old. I mentioned all that. Julie, I mentioned 3 girls, and Dan. Yeah, I've mentioned all of them. I just have to make sure. My sister's here to help me. She's younger and helps me. How did I get here? I came here when I was 41 years old. I came from a family, and my sister and my kids will attest to this. Whether you're a boy or girl, you better learn how to throw a football. You better learn how to catch a football. You better learn how to hit a ball, throw a ball, kick a ball. We always were playing games. And some of our family was professional. My father was a dentist and played for 2 hardball teams. Back then, in the old days, towns and businesses would have not softball, hardball teams. And there was one, my maiden name was Martin, there was one team that had how many Martins on it, Bets? They were like the whole family was playing. So we always played sports. I was introduced to field hockey in junior high, and it was intramural. That's when I fell in love with the game. I love field hockey. And I never played varsity till my sophomore year at Upper Darby. But I have to tell you that what's wonderful for an athlete is to have good coaching. So when I became athletic director, selecting a coach was very important to me. I was one that interviewed Bill Wiley. I was athletic director then. Ron asked me to help. And I came out and I said, there's no choice. They were down to, I think, 2. And I said, you have to give it to Bill Wiley. I could just sense that he had what I liked in a coach, that he cared very much about the students and was knowledgeable and had his head on straight. My first coach was Elizabeth Williams. She put me on the varsity team at Upper Darby High School when I was a sophomore. My high school coach and a lot of the people here met her when my husband died, because Libby came to the funeral. My high school coach coached 25 undefeated teams, in women's teams, in hockey, basketball, and lacrosse. You don't get that many good horses that you can coach 25 undefeated teams. She's the one that told me to go to Temple. Ann Volp was the best field hockey coach. Coaching's so important, but what I believe is coaching is teaching. And I've entered this field not because I had fun playing sports, but in education world, we have art, we have music, we have athletics, because there's a great deal of things you can learn from all of that. And I made sure when I was athletic director, and some of these people we know, I had rules that we had to follow. Rules were made for fairness and for fun and safety, and they had to follow that. The one regret I had is that I had I hate to say this, but I had, because I was dealing with 18 and 19-year-old people, they have to learn to obey the rules. We live in a society, a civilization, where everyone has to follow the rules, if they're fair rules. And I felt our rules were fair. I canceled a baseball season. I always felt bad about that, but I had to. I really felt that learning through what we're teaching these young people is very important for those young people. But I only did a couple bad things like that. But I have to tell you what was funny. When we opened the gym, no one knew how to run the clock. So I learned how to run the clock. And there was a baseball game. I was teaching Vinny, but there was a baseball game with Billy Buckley and Tom Cassisi, athletic director at thank you, Hazelton. See, they all have to help me. And he was also the coach. Well, I was running the clock. Now, I was always a coach. I never ran a clock. I was watching the game. I forgot to turn the clock on. And they said, "Here's the clock." And I said, "Well, you guys just relax. It'll be fine." But no, so fortunately, Finn was my helper. I'm just very emotional. And that table has all my sons and grandchildren that are here. And I love them. And I love
Penn State Brandywine. And I love the job that Bobby's doing. And I love that we're all here together and that we still have this wonderful program. One thing I forgot, when I was a teacher here, I had to recruit. We had the best faculty. I have to tell you, and these young people that are here that played back then know the faculty we had. It was easy to recruit. I remember Joe Junta, he came in to me what course to take. I said, take Dr. Allwang, who's my good friend, the English professor, take Dr. Allwang's class on Chaucer. He goes, Chaucer? He loved it. Didn't you, Joe? He loved her class. But I mean, and we got great support from the faculty, and it's just, I don't feel bad that I'm not still here because I'm too old to do the job. It was time for a young one. But damn, I had a good time, and I love these kids. Thank you.
Wow, what a special night it has been. On behalf of the campus and the athletic department, I want to congratulate Dan, Tiz, Bill, Michael, Julie, and Dana for this honor. Thank you again to each of you for being a pioneer for Brandywine athletics. Each of you played a special role in putting Brandywine on the map and will forever be a part of our first Hall of Fame class. Lastly, I want to thank each of you that are here with us to help celebrate these inductees. Athletics thrives off of the support of our community. Whether you are a former student athlete or staff member, family member, or friend of an inductee, you are a key member of our team. I hope each of you here today will continue to stay connected with us by joining our Brandywine Athletics alumni team, joining our mailing list, attending department fundraisers or alumni events, or simply attending games. No matter what your level of interest is, we welcome you to be a part of our pride. In each of your programs are information cards. If you are interested in staying connected with us, please take a second to complete the card with your contact information. In addition, there are sponsorship forms in your program. There are multiple ways in which you and your business can help enhance our student-athlete experience here at Penn State Brandywine. Once again, congratulations to the 6 remarkable individuals we had so much fun honoring tonight. I hope all of you enjoyed your night reminiscing on your time spent here on campus. This is certainly a night to remember. So let's end our night the only way Penn Staters know how. We are Penn State! We are Penn State! We are Penn State! Thank you. You're welcome.
Go to the beach every weekend together. I would go when he couldn't go. So I would try to pick up on Monday. So I would get, usually I would go on a Thursday night and play until Monday. I put my friends down. I was like, I'm hanging out down there with the day. Like, so it wasn't as much that, well, it was great seeing you guys.
Please don't forget to take your chocolate lion with you as your little takeaway. And also we can have all the inductees out in the lobby for pictures. That would be lovely. Drive safe.